What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my top 5 favorite plugins of 2022. The way I came up with this list was taking all the plugins I reviewed over the year and figuring out the ones that I'm still using today. Because I do get quite a few plugins to review every year, and some of them are exciting and fun to use for a while, but then I just kind of die off using them. These are plugins that I keep on using, and they've been very helpful for my daily mixing and mastering. So without further ado, let's get into the best plugins of 2022. Let's go. Okay, guys, so the first plugin is by Korneff Audio. It's a newer plugin company, and it's fastly becoming one of my favorite companies. They're so good at making things that saturate and have like a tone to them. And they give you so many parameters to tweak with them, which can sometimes be a good thing and a bad thing. But the way they do it is there's a few buttons on top that if you just want the basic stuff, it's there, but you can dial in and really get into the nitty gritty of the plugin as well. So this one is the newest plugin they have. This is the Korneff Audio Echoleffe, or Echoleffe. I call it the Echoleffe. And what it basically is a tape delay. But in Korneff style, they also give you it's kind of like 3 plugins in one. So you have your basic tape delay, which is the way this plugin is set up right here. And then you also have a tape saturation mode, and we'll play some examples in a hot second. A tape saturation mode, which is just the tape without the delay. And then you have this, because there's a tube section in this, the tube preamp section, which sounds really good. It's like a grimy tube sounding, but can get really nice and warm. So first, we got this vocal from my buddy Garrett Gregory, and you can here's the delay, right?
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed.
So there's 3 different heads here, right? And then you have your reverb control, which is basically how loud the delay is, your mix knob, duration, kind of like feedback, and then a tone control, and then this density button, which just makes more delays. So it almost turns it into kind of like a reverb. And you have an input, and then these tilts too. These tilt EQs here and inputs here. And you can switch this on and off, so you can do either one. So that's cool. So this is like with all the Korneff Audio stuff. Once you press the button here, that's when it dives you into the deeper sides of the plugin, the dark side, as they say. And this is where the 3 tape heads are when you're in this tape delay mode. And so you can switch them here, to the different delay settings, or you could do just by time, milliseconds. You have a pan on each one, a bias on each one, which, kind of brings in some distortion to it, and then a low and high frequency. So that's great. Each one has all that, right? Then you can click the tape section, and you have wow and flutter ability to change, the ramp up the speed, generation loss, so just how old the tape sounds, head bump, which is like a lot of times on tape, you will get a bump in the low end, and then the age of the tape, which is really cool sounding, and then 2 different tape formulas, 499, 456. So pretty cool how you can really dive in. So let me just play with this for a minute, and I'll just tweak some things so you guys can hear this thing in action.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed, and you'll be complaining. But honey, I'm done explaining why I'm working all the time, why I drink too much. I'll never settle down, I'll never smarten up. I got a bad habit of breaking hearts and breaking rules. If I don't pick up the phone fast enough when you call, and I'm not jealous enough, hell, I've heard it all. There's only so many things that this boy can do, but you ain't.
So you can see, you could spend days playing with this thing, but in the same breath, the way they set these plugins up, and this one in particular, it's just so easy to get into it and switch things around and get to sounds you're hearing in your head really fast. So I just love the way they're all developed. Now, so really quickly, you can switch to this mode, the tape saturation mode, and then when you switch on here, you get just this tape section. So now
you'll be waiting with all your bags packed.
Now you have just the tape head, right? So you're just, you can make this thing sound really distorted and crazy.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed.
Or turn your rates down, no wow and flutter, a little bit of age.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed. You'll You'll be waiting with all your bags packed, and you'll be complaining. But honey, I'm done explaining.
And just like a little bit of sound, let's turn this tone down.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed, and you'll be complaining. But honey, I'm done explaining.
So if you just want a little distortion or get crazy with distortion, you can use that there. And also, what I've used a lot is this preamp section. Now, the only thing I wish the plugin would have is if you could somehow tweak this too when you're in the tape and the delay section, but maybe it's deeper. I haven't found it, but I don't see it. But this thing's really cool. You can really get some great tones out of this. And I've been using this sometimes on vocals just lightly, just to give them some warmth and thickness.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed, and you'll be complaining. But honey, I'm done explaining.
So just like that, I'll put it on the vocal like that.
You'll be waiting with all your bags packed, and you'll be complaining.
You can hear it just kind of thickens up the vocal. So that is the first plugin on the list, the Korneff Audio Echoleffe. Who knows? The next plugin on the list is the Joe Chiccarelli plugin by Leapwing. I just love this plugin, and I haven't gotten tired of it. I use it on everything. I use it on vocals, and I use it on kicks, and I use it on snares, and sometimes keyboards, but mostly those are the three things I find myself gravitating towards. And the reason why is it just has all the tools you could need in one plugin. And so like, for the kicks here, and I'll put a link to the full review up above, but like the kicks here, you have, a full graphic equalizer, and that's based on an API. Then you have some drive, parallel saturation, parallel smooth, parallel power. So they're all three different parallel compression chains. And like I said, if you watch the video, it will show you what they can do. But let me just throw this on the drums really quick and just show you some of the sounds you can get. Now, I don't have a separated kick in this song, but you'll get the idea. Like even that parallel sustain, you hear like even the kick they start sustaining a little bit. So like they actually kind of mean what they say. Like that pair of power just gives that, crazy 1176 kind of, compression. And I just love this plugin. And then, on vocals, let's drop this back down to our vocal track. It's the same kind of thing. It just, there's so many great parts. It's got a pull tech here, 100 hertz and 10K, then a 4-band API, beautiful reverbs that, I sometimes use, but I usually tend to use my own reverb, but sometimes you just turn it on, it's the right one. Drive, and then parallel power once again. Power, which is like 1176, and opticals, which is like an LA28 kind of thing. And even with this, you can get a great vocal really fast.
Working all the time while I drink too much. I'll never settle down, I'll never smarten up. I got a bad habit of breaking hearts and breaking rules. If I don't pick up the phone fast enough when you call, and I'm not jealous enough, hell, I've heard it all. Well, there's
So I mean, like, what was that, 10 seconds? We got a pretty good vocal sound really fast. So there's just so much it can do. And, it's got other sections that are really cool. Overheads, and it's got the saturation from like overstayer on the overheads. Tons of really cool features, really fast and creative ways to use it. So I've been using this a ton and I haven't gotten tired of it. So it's on the list. All right, third on the list is this Kirtchoff EQ. And it's been talked about quite a bit. And I did a video. I'll put it in the above. It's this versus the Pro Q. And I use this quite a bit. I still use Pro Q2 as well, Pro Q3 as well, just because it's still just a little bit more intuitive. But you can do so much more with this thing. It has all these different EQ curves, like pull techs and 2050s. And then the dynamic processing is much more detailed. If you check it out, you can like click here and then just click D, which is dynamics. And then you have threshold, ratio, range, attack and release. So you have all these settings you can do with the dynamic compressor that you just don't get with the Fab filter. Fab filter is just a few settings. And sometimes that's better for me, but when I really need to get detailed, this is a great EQ. And I've been using this one a bit more on like my mastering, where I'm still kind of using the Pro Q for mixing. But it also has these other settings where, you know, a mix, which is a bit of linear EQ and a bit of regular EQ, just kind of the best of both worlds. Because if you notice, if you do filter sometimes with the Fab filter, it can change the sound quite a bit if you're not in minimum phase, I think, setting. So this has like a mix of both. So it's like a souped up Fab filter Pro Q. And if you don't have Pro Q, you might want to get this. If you already have Pro Q, it's a nice one to add on to it. It can do a lot more than Pro Q can do. And having both is just like the best of both worlds. It's the clean EQs that you'll ever need. Maybe you just need one more color EQ and you're done. But yeah, this thing has definitely been used quite a bit around here, and that's why it is on the list. All right, number 4 on the list, the God Particle. This is from my man Jason Joshua. And it actually took me a little while to like it. At first, I didn't like it, but then I had to figure out what it was doing. And now I'm pretty much mixing with this on all the time. And it works, man. It's a nice sound to put on your bus, and you can push it different ways. You know, these spots here are that's Jay's sound, right? And sometimes it really works. Like for hip hop and pop stuff, hitting these marks is really good. Sometimes I feel like it compresses a little too much on certain stuff, so I'll bring my input down and then my output up. Okay, so you can play with it, or sometimes just bring your amount down to 75 or something. So there's different ways you can get different sounds out of it, but it just makes your mix sound better as soon as you put it on. It's really nothing more than that. And then this mid knob to me is where the money is. If I have a mix and just maybe for my ear that's sounding a little thin sometimes, if you just push that a little bit, it will really, thicken things up. So let me play it for a minute with this mix so you guys can hear it.
All the time while I drink too much, I'll never settle down, I'll never smarten up. I got a bad habit of breaking hearts and breaking rules. If I don't pick up the phone fast enough when you call, and I'm not jealous enough, hell, I've heard it all. Well, there's only so many things that this boy can do. You ain't leaving me, girl.
So it's kind of a weird song to use that on a country record. I don't know if I would use it, but I'll be straight up with you. When I do a country type record, I use it, but on 75%, and I usually have a SSL compressor before it. So I'm doing more of my compression with that on a rock or country type record, and this is just for the sound, the saturation that I really like from that. So you can use it in combination with all kinds of stuff, but this killer plugin is getting used every day over here, so it's on the list for sure. All right, the last plugin on the 2022 list is the Ozone 10. It's the new Ozone, and I didn't mention on the God Particle and the one before this, I don't use the limiter that much. It sounds great on a lot of stuff, but I like to be able to adjust things after that, and I also like to run either a clipper and a limiter or 2 limiters, so I just like the ability. Sometimes I'll use actually the God Particle limiter followed into Ozone 10. But Ozone 10, as it's always been, is always kind of, my last plugin. I've been using these for years, and this one's no different. So it's got all the regular stuff that you would have, but there's some cool new features, which I'll put a link to the video I did on it. But with the stabilizer, I've found myself using this sometimes. I don't know if any of you guys know that plugin, Golfoss. What the hell is it called? It's the Golfoss plugin. That's what I know it as. And it will do this kind of fast dynamic change of the music, and it can sometimes really make these stuff sound good. This kind of does the same thing.
All the time while I drink too much, I'll never settle.
It's dynamically kind of fixing your mix, and it works really well sometimes. For certain songs, I've been using it quite a bit. It'll just be like a little extra icing on the cake for a mix I'm working on. And then also it has this new impact thing, which I haven't used as much. It's basically kind of like a transient designer for your master is one way of putting it. And it has actually saved the day on some mixes, and it's been great. And then lastly is master rebalance. Now, sometimes I'll get a mix that if I'm just mastering and, there's not much I can do, but the vocal's buried or the bass is buried or the drums are too loud or whatever. And sometimes using this can really help. Just, turn the bass down a dB or two. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'll duplicate the plugin and use 2 because I'll turn the bass down 2 dB and then I want to turn the vocal up a dB or 2. But it can really save the day on some masters sometimes. It's not the way to do it, but if the client's lost the files and all you got is a stereo mix and that's the only way to save it, then it's a great way to save it. So many tools in the Ozone 10 or any Ozone really library that it's something that gets used all the time over here. All right, guys, so those are my favorite plugins of 2022. Let me know in the comments below the plugins that you've been using that have made the grade that you've used all year and are your favorite that you bought this year. And then maybe I'll check them out too. If you got any questions, you can leave them down there too. If you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also check out my new Slate mixing course on there as well. Talk to you soon.